Now, since awk is a programming language, if you know anything about programming languages, you would expect it to have user-defined variables, as well as the built-in ones. And indeed it does. A variable is just a name that holds a value. Variable names consist of letters, digits, and underscores, and may not begin with a digit. You don't need to declare or define a variable in awk. Variables are created as soon as you use them. This is convenient, but it also means that if you make a mistake when typing a variable name, it silently creates a new variable with the mistaken name instead of causing an error. For example, we write a program, hello equal $1, goodbye equal $2, and then we'll print. So in this case, we type 2 fields of input, and it only prints the second one. The first field of the input was assigned to the variable hello, but when it went to print it, because I had the typo hello instead of hello, it printed nothing, because the variable hello was created with an empty string variable when we tried to print it. Awk variable names are case sensitive, so that capital A and lowercase a are different variables. Lowercase a to the variable to the first field, uppercase A to the second one. If you're an experienced programmer, you may be wondering, if you don't have to declare or define a variable in awk, how does awk know what type of variable it is? Is it a string, a character, an integer, a floating point number? The answer is that in awk, all variables, in fact all expressions, are treated as numbers or as strings as necessary depending on context. For example, if we have this simple program, we'll set a to 1, b to 3, and print a plus b. In this case, I've written a program that ignores its input and simply prints a variable. So when I hit a blank line, it outputs the result of adding a and b, which is, in this case, 4, using the addition operator. The addition operator treats its arguments as numbers, but if we use the concatenation operator instead, which simply consists of writing two variables next to each other, now it concatenates the string variables a and b together, producing the value 1, 3, which looks like 13. If a string value that isn't a number like Bob is treated as a number, its value is 0. So we'll set a to 1, b to Bob, and add their values together. In this case, it adds 1 to the numeric value of Bob, which is 0, which yields 1. Integer and floating point values are automatically converted to each other whenever necessary. For example, if we set a to 1, b to 3, and divide, in this case it prints 6 digits after the decimal point by default. We'll talk more about how to format numeric values later. If you want to be sure that a value is treated as a number, you can add 0 to it. So in this case, we'll take the string value 1, prints it as a string, O-N-E. But if we add the numeric value 0 to it, it considers it to be a number and prints 0, which is 0 plus 0. You can concatenate an empty string to any value to force it to be treated as a string. In this case, we're concatenating an empty string to the string 1, which forces it to be treated as a string. Now, let's take a more complicated example. We'll set a to 1, b to 2, c to 3. So in this case, we're performing concatenation of a and b and multiplication of c. Now, which one comes first? The answer is that awk multiplies first and then concatenates. It first multiplies b times c to give 6, then concatenates with the 1 to give 1, 6. If you want to force the concatenation first, or if you just want to be sure that you and awk agree on which way that will be evaluated, you can use parentheses. In this case, the parentheses force the concatenation to be performed first, concatenating 1 and 2 together to make 12, then multiplying it by 3 to give 36. Now, although awk does not know the English names of the numbers, it's actually pretty generous in accepting strings as numbers. We'll use this little awk program to show how awk converts its numbers to strings. In this case, we're escaping the quote to print a literal quote. We'll print the value of the first field, another literal quote, and then. So in this case, we're taking the value of the first field on the line, we're printing it within quotes followed by plus 0 equals, and then we actually print the value of the field plus 0. So a string can be an integer, like 1, 2, 3, which is treated as the integer value 123. You can type a floating point value like 6.5, and it's treated as the floating point value 6.5. Or you can use a number in scientific notation like 4e3, which is 4 times 10 to the third, or 4,000. Negative numbers, like negative 2.3, and numbers with leading zeros, are also accepted as numbers. If a string begins with a number, but is followed by non-numeric characters, when you treat the string as a number, the non-numeric characters are silently ignored. For example, the string 66 boo boo is treated as the number 66. The boo boo part is ignored. On the other hand, if a string does not begin with a number, its numeric value is always 0, even if there's a number later in the string. So for example, boo boo 66 is treated as 0. Finally, a word about variable scope. It's pretty simple. Unless you have user-defined functions, which are beyond the scope of this course, all awk variables have global scope. In other words, the variable a in one part of the program is the same as the variable a anywhere else in the program, even if they are in different statements, actions, or blocks. For example, in the begin section of the program, we'll set a to 1, and then in the body of the program, we'll print a and $0 from our Duke of York. And here we see the value of a, which was set in the begin block, retains its value 1 in the rest of the program.